Well, it's hard to tell what's new on the tractor, so I'll zoom in here and show you. Okay. Can you see that yellow up inside there? That's a new scraper seal. I rebuilt both of these hydraulic cylinders. The only thing left right now that I have to fix is the seal. I call it a seal. It's an O-ring that goes between here and here. It still leaks a little bit. You don't see much leakage now because the tractor's been sitting a couple days. But they do leak. That one leaked pretty bad. I reefed on it, tightened it, and it helped. But 2 or 3 of them still leak, so I've got to try some different O-rings than the ones I got. But otherwise, it quit leaking. This one was not leaking really much at all, but the one on the other side was dripping. Here, I'll show you. It was licking all over the exhaust. It's hard to tell in this video, but the exhaust pipe's a lot darker because it's all coated in oil. This thing was leaking. You'd run the tractor and it would leak for the next 24 hours. It was pretty bad. And so somebody had been in there. Oh yeah, see, this one's got oil all over it. You see on top of the hex here, see it's all wet? And I've reefed on that. It's nice and tight, so it needs another O-ring. This one is okay. Yeah, it's alright. So anyway, I got to work on that still. Now, let's go back in here and I'll show you. I didn't go through and show the rebuild. It's just too much time and energy for me these days. It would have helped probably, but let me put you guys on the tripod. Okay, so what we have is here's all the seals and O-rings I bought. It's hard finding Chinese stuff. It's just really hard. So what I did was I found a place, MFP Seals. I think it's mfpseals.com. Yeah, I think it's mfpseals.com. And here's the list of mine didn't have seals in it per se. They had some kind of funky O-rings, and so I bought real seals. They're called U-cups, and that yellow one I showed you guys was it's called a D-wiper. Here's what they call it. Now their $25 minimum means I had to buy, instead of buying 2 of each, I bought 4 of each of the seal sets, so I had extras, and I'm really glad I did. Let's see here. Here's the small O-rings that I was just showing you that still leak. I had to buy a minimum of them of 16, and they still leak. So I'm going to try I have a big box of air conditioning O-rings that are a little tougher, I think. These are Buna 70. You really want 90s, but that's all I could get. So anyway, with all this aside, here's the older parts, the used parts. And I'll show you what's important here. This was the old seal that yellow one I just showed you. Here's the old original. Mainly its job is just to keep the dirt out. So here's both of those. This was one of the Chinese seals, one of the original ones. It's just a crappy piece of plastic. It's really nothing. And that was only located on one of the hydraulic rams. The other side, somebody had crammed in like a couple of O-rings, shoved them in there, and that's the one that was leaking so bad. Okay, so this green one got damaged, and so did the originals. Let's see if I can show you. Boy, this is going to be a tough one. if we can get it to focus and the light's just right, it's all chewed up in here. And it chewed up a couple of them when I was testing them. It turned out that the metal part of the gland nut was, the threads were ultra sharp at the very end where the threads end, and they were like slivers. They were hanging loose, so I had to file them and grind them all down so they were not going to cut this all up. The other thing is real seals do a really good job. The real seals look sort of like this, not exactly, but kind of like it. And let's see, I don't think I have any to show you. Maybe I do. Okay, where U-cup. Oop, I feel one in there, hot dog. Okay. This is what most real systems come with. Okay, so you can see there's these two lips here, and it makes the shape of a C in cross section. See there? This is what goes on the piston itself. Or, well, it actually goes on the gland nut and acts like a seal. So you put it on this way so the fluid hits it and expands it tight and makes it seal really well. And this took the place of this piece of junk. I mean, you know, that's not a seal, that's just some cheap piece of junk. Well, it was the first generation Chinese tractor. So, what else? Let's see, no, not that one. There was another funny, oh yeah, it was two O-rings. It was like somebody crammed in an undersized one and an oversized one, something like this, to try and fill a gap up, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. So this one worked pretty well. I'm glad I ordered extras because getting the first one I rebuilt in was easy. You just, sorry, there's crap all over it. You oil it up good. Here's your oiler, and you shape it and you slide it in, and I did it with two hands, no problem. This other gland nut on the other side of the tractor had a massive problem, and it took me a while to figure it out. The groove that this sits in wasn't thick enough. It literally wasn't thick enough. I measured it and everything, and it was like, instead of 5 or 5.1 millimeters thick, it was like 4.7. It was a lot thicker. I couldn't get the seal in, no matter what I tried, and man, I tried a lot. So, let's see. So I had to machine it, and that really sucked. Let me get the tool I used. Well, wonderful. Now I don't know where the seal is, or the tool is. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is kind of important. Sorry, the video is going to suck a little bit, but this, if you can imagine a gland nut, it's hollow inside, and the tool goes in and goes in sideways and makes a groove. Well, what this one did was I made the groove deeper by going along like that, and it's hard to measure what they call the height of the groove. So what I did is I used an Allen wrench, a 5mm Allen wrench, and I had to shorten it and stick it in there, and if it fit, it was a go no go gauge concept, and I put it in there and it fit, and then I put the seal in and it fit perfectly. So this is the tool I used. It's just a 90-degree high-speed steel cutter, and it worked like a champ, man. If I didn't have this, I'd have never finished the project. Okay, two other parts. These are, what the hell do they call these? Let's see. They call these wear rings. What they're supposed to do is they sit inside the gland nut, and they keep the rod centered. The rod just slides in and out of this, and it keeps it centered so it doesn't wear against anything. Now, these are fairly well worn, but they are not the same size because, God, I really don't know why. One's a lot smaller. So one went on, I think it was this one. It would have a gap right here of about nothing. And this one had a gap of like that wide. So I ordered some from them. Let's see. Wear ring. Oh shoot, I don't have any. Let's see, did I? Yeah, I don't have any. Anyway, it was made out of phenolic. And the phenolic cracked into a million pieces. Oh, here we go. This stuff's way too brittle. I used a heat gun and a hose clamp to try and shrink it down in size because we had to buy oversized. They didn't have my exact diameter. And these come with an angle cut on each end, and it didn't work. It broke into a million pieces. So what I did was I took some Delrin. I had some Delrin rod, and I made these exact rings out of Delrin. It's 10 millimeters wide, 2.5 millimeters thick, which is 1/10 of an inch, and it came out pretty good. I cut it with a hacksaw at a diagonal, and it turns out Delrin's too, you see how soft this is? Delrin's too stiff. I could not get it in, so I had to actually cut it in half so I had two pieces. Then I could flex it a little with some oil on it and get it in there, and it fit in pretty nice. So it's a little experimental on my part, but sometimes, I don't know, finding all this stuff for this thing took me weeks. It literally took me weeks. Okay, the other thing is once these O-rings, the ones that I showed you earlier that got all chewed up, these are 28 millimeter ID, and it chewed up a whole bunch of them. So what I ended up finding, and it works for now, I've only got half an hour on the tractor, so it's not, these came from Amazon, a package of 10, and they had a funny name on them, fluorine. They're made out of fluorine, whatever the heck that is. They were twice as expensive as a Buna N material, and they were pretty good, the correct size. I mean, they'll tell you that they're 28 ID and a 3.5 millimeter cross section, and you know, I don't think these people use calibrated calipers, so they were just a little big, but it still went in, sealed everything up, and it's been working perfectly. So we'll see what happens, you know, in 6 months. Is it still working? Here's the original for the hose seals. These are all the factory originals, and none of them leaked. I don't know where there's 4 of them. Oh, no, well, I don't know where it is. I don't know where the 4th one is. So I was thinking about just putting these back in and trying them. But yeah, used O-rings, not a plan. So anyway, this thing got 2 brand new seals, rod scrapers that are made out of urethane, and then of course the what I showed you guys a minute ago, the U-cup seals are made of urethane too. So these are huge improvements over any kind of O-ring. So hopefully they'll last a long time. Machining that gland nut was pretty scary, I have to say. But I went slow and carefully, and I turned it on the lathe and it worked fine. Now, the bad news about seals is they're a lot less flexible than an O-ring. O-rings are nothing. They're flexible like crazy. These things are really stiff, and especially the new ones are really stiff. So I bought a set of these. They come in sets of 3, small, medium, and large, and I had to use, let's see, I think this is the small one here, yeah. I'll just do it on an O-ring because it's a lot easier. Let's see. It's hard to do when it's all slippery. Oops, well, okay, here we go. It folds it like that, and you see how this bows like this? That allows you to reach down into the nut and at least install one edge, and then you use your fingers to walk it around. And this thing has a lot of leverage. these handles do, and you need it. You absolutely have to have it because these seals are super crazy stiff. But this helped a lot. Now, had both of my gland nuts been machined properly, I would have just needed my fingers. A little stiff, a little hard, but it would have just needed my fingers. So I'm glad I got them. I got them off Amazon, $31 for all three. And it's better to have a tool than not have a tool. So anyway, so all this stuff is going to get put away now. The piston screws on to the end of the rod. It's a giant thread and it screws on, and then it uses these they call them dog point set screws. See if I can show you what that means. It doesn't really mean a lot, but that's what they're called apparently. You see how the end is machined with no threads on it? You run this through the piston, and there's a hole in the rod, and it grabs it so it can't rotate. Somebody just took some channel locks and reefed on them to make them tight, and that's not how it was designed. But it is cheap Chinese, so you make it as good as you can so it'll last a long time. The oil I used, tractor, hydraulic, and transmission oil. It almost doesn't matter. You just need some lubricant on these parts when you put them together. And the can that this came out of just happened to be on top and was mostly empty, so it's just easier on me. But you see, I filled it almost to the top here, and I only used a little bit, but it's perfectly handy. You can dispense it right on your fingertips, put it on stuff, and then put it together. So anyway, the only thing wrong, like I said, is these O-rings. The new ones, let's see, is it these right here? Yeah, there's a whole bag of these. I don't know, the old ones didn't leak at all, not a drop. And these new ones leak, so it's easy to make the assumption that there's a problem with them. They're either too soft. It says Buna 70. So 70 is a lot softer than 90, but anyway, that's what I've got. Maybe they're the wrong size. We measured them, and you kind of have to take your best guess because this thing's so flattened. You kind of take an average between the thickness and the width when you do that. So maybe this just isn't, the wall thickness just isn't enough. I don't know. I have a million others this size for air conditioning, and I'm going to try those instead. They're green, roughly the color of this. So anyway, what I was going to do was use some thread locker on these screws, and I decided not to at the end. I said, it's never had thread locker in its whole life. Now, that may not be accurate. I know that somebody had been in here and put 2 O-rings in place of a seal, in place of this crappy little seal. So somebody's been in there, and the side that had the 2 O-rings leaked like a sieve. So at least the sizes were close to standard. Machining that one with this guy really did a nice job. That made the whole thing, both sides are now the same. They take the same parts, they fit relatively easily, and they don't leak a drop. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. So anyway, alright, so all this just needs to get put away again. You want to work on a clean surface. It doesn't have to be stainless, but you need to work on a clean surface. Your hands need to be clean. You just don't want this stuff in. It'll abrade the sealing and shorten the life of everything. You don't want any of that. Like I said, the name of the company is MFP Seals. I think it was mfpseals.com. Check them out. The lady's name, Stephanie. She's awesome. She helped me a ton. Probably more than she should have. Anyway, that's where I got mine. They're located in Madison Heights, Michigan. Or maybe Troy, Michigan. Either way. Yeah, look them up. They have a pretty good website presence. If you're not solid on the sizes you picked, Make sure you have calipers in your hand, make sure you have your old stuff in your hand, and call them up and ask them. The lady's great, she knows a lot, and she helped me tremendously. So the reason I got these green ones off of Amazon is because I didn't think I would need new ones for the piston. Oh, how stupid that was. Make sure you order all the seals and O-rings you need for everything. Don't save anything. If you end up with extras, that's great. But if you're short, then you gotta wait another week for shipping and la. So I was lucky that these are a fairly standard size, and I got them in a hopefully better material, and I was able to rebuild it. Plus I had to machine these. That is a tough one to find, this particular, what the hell do we call it? What did we call it? Well, okay. You guys have better memory than I do, that's for sure. It's not an O-ring, it's a wear ring. This is really important. These are super important. So, and they're kind of a soft material. The Delrin, the black Delrin I use is a lot stiffer, but its temperature rating is higher, which I thought was a good thing. The temperature rating of these new green ones was higher, so I went with them because of the temperature rating. So anyway, find a good source for your stuff and give it a shot. It's not terribly hard. I think the cylinder weighed probably 25 pounds fully assembled, so it's not horribly heavy, but it works. And as soon as I put some new O-rings on it, I'll test drive it and figure out if it's gonna stop from leaking. So anyway, that's one video I wanted to make. Sorry I didn't show you guys how to do it. It was just there was so many details and so many problems that it would have killed me. I would have never gotten this thing done. I use that tractor to load up our trash barrels in the back of my flatbed because I can't lift them. They're way too heavy. They gotta weigh 60 or 80 pounds, and I can't lift them anymore. Those lifting heavy things is way behind me. So that tractor had to get done so we could take the trash out, literally, to the dump. So I had to get this done. It was kind of high priority, but this information is valuable. These tools are valuable. If your tractor, your Chinese tractor has these crappy little wannabe seals in them, you can get the real deals, and they're pretty cheap. I don't even remember what they were. They were, I don't know, $1 or $2. They were fine. They were just fine. The urethane, the good stuff. So they weren't terribly expensive. Let's see, that should be on here, right? The U-cup was $5.40. Is that right? The wipers, the replacement for these, was $1.09. They were also urethane. The bigger O-rings, like this size, or actually bigger, they went around the outside of the gland nut. They were $1.09. So, the stuff isn't horribly expensive. I hope I got that U-cup thing right. Yeah, it says $5.42 each. So, okay, it's $5. I don't even know what the total was to rebuild this thing. It wasn't a lot. It's mostly time and figuring out how to do it. In fact, I had to go $25 minimum. I think the shipping was free after that, but there's still tax. It was worth it. It was worth it. And these green things were $10. So I don't know what I spent. 35, maybe. Let's just round it up to 40, and for parts. And then these tools, I'll probably have those for 100 years. So they're worth getting. And they make it a lot easier to put things together. One other important tool. Let me grab it because I'm not prepared. I know you guys know what calipers are, digital calipers, but this was a little different. And this was a big deal figuring out the problem with, you see that? You see this here, that height? It says on it 20 millimeters. This is an inside diameter caliper, $50. It was a lot of money, but I was obviously taking something done cheaply and quickly. The machining is not very good, and I had to measure this stuff so I could literally know what my seal sizes were supposed to be. And this was hugely valuable because there's no kit for this early version. There's no kit. Later on, there's kits, but I wasn't so lucky. So, this was hugely valuable. This caliper, inside diameter caliper, is hugely valuable. So I had to spend a lot. What? So 50, 30, so $80 in tools. Not what I wanted to do, but I wanted to get it right and get it done. Because literally trash was piling up in our yard, and I'm not going to have that. That's not okay. Anyway, so there's the whole story laid out. It's wonderful to have this thing running. In the future, I'll report when I get those seals, those tiny O-rings installed, and we'll hopefully that'll take care of the last of the leaks, and that all this stuff will last. It should last a lot of years. It's a lot higher quality than these O-rings. O-rings are a good material and they have a great function in life, but urethane is way better. And the design of the U-cup seal is far superior to any O-ring or this piece of junk. So be prepared if you have a Chinese tractor that things may not be just quick and easy. You order them online and boom, you get your parts. Just be aware of that. You need regular calipers too, so that you can measure the thickness of your O-rings. You have to measure usually it goes ID, OD, and thickness, but bare minimum you need the ID and the thickness. So get some regular calipers. The $20 or $30 ones at Harbor Freight and other places are just fine for that, because you want to report the accurate dimensions of these parts. I didn't have any dimensions wrong. I was real happy about that. So just be careful in that because now I have part numbers documented for all this stuff. So if I have to rebuild it again, I have literally the right part number and the cost and everything, and that takes a lot of work out of it. So, all right, I'm rambling, man. I need to go get something to drink. Thanks. See you. Bye.